welcome to EmpowerID 101. My name is Phil Geringer, one of the solution architects here at EmpowerID. I've created this series of short training videos to provide you with an administrator's understanding of EmpowerID. I have included videos that cover most aspects of EmpowerID, from basic concepts to complex configurations and everything in between. Each video has been designed to cover a specific topic or process, so feel free to come back often and refresh your understanding of a particular area you're interested in.
This video will focus on designing a role and location infrastructure. So why do we need business roles and locations? When should I use a business role versus some other RBAC assignment mechanism? Combining business locations and business roles for a complete assignment configuration. What are some of the strategies for an effective design of a business role and location structure? And what are some general tips and advice that I can give? First of all, let's talk about why we need business roles and locations. See, business roles and locations provide a familiar and commonly accepted grouping mechanism that non-technical users of the system can recognize and easily navigate. The structure can be configured to represent the organizational structure of a business. It also provides an anchor point for mapping external roles and locations from connected systems so that the master person identities can be provisioned into a business structure. And business roles and locations can be architected to leverage the powerful and complex inheritance relationships available in EmpowerID that allow you to anchor common access and policy assignments very efficiently at varying inheritance levels. And this eliminates the need to create unnecessary duplicated assignments. And finally, it provides a structure for rolling up multiple and varied assignments to a common anchor point, allowing the administrator to accumulate widely varying types of assignments and policies to an easily recognized and navigated business structure. So let's look at business roles versus other RBAC assignments. So when we're looking at creating business roles, we're going to create business roles and location structure to use common assignments that apply to a large group of people that have a basic organizational commonality, such as a business unit, department, job function, or other geographic relationships potentially. Now, business roles and locations should be used when there is an opportunity to leverage inheritance, either on a business role or a business location hierarchy, to provide common assignments. Now, direct assignments of management roles to individuals are recommended when the assignments are less organizational and more either request-based or apply to a more narrow set of people within an organizational or job-related grouping. A good example of this might be a server platform or application-specific function assigned to individuals based on a particular specialization in a department. So for instance, if you have a server administration group within your departmental structure, you might assign somebody as a server engineer in that group. Well, within that group, you may have certain individuals that specialize in, say, the Unix servers. You may have other ones that specialize in some of the Windows servers or a particular set of Windows servers. Well, we can provide common assignments based on the fact that I am a server engineer in that department, and then we can allow the manager of that department to assign more granular access via management roles to the various specializations within his grouping. And so the direct assignment of management roles or groups can also be preferred if the assignments need to be based on a dynamic attribute or other aspect of a person's identity. Now, these assignments can be applied using EmpowerID's dynamic hierarchy assignment policies. So let's take a look a little bit about combining business roles and locations and their assignments. So in EmpowerID, access is never assigned to just a business role or a business location. Any organizational assignments must have both a role and a location assignment. Now, leveraging inheritance, you can essentially create a one-sided assignment, say to a particular role or an assignment to the entire administration department, by specifying a granular target on one of the trees and a broadly inherited assignment on the other tree. Now in this first example, an assignment made to the role of sales rep, for instance, at a location of company 2 would create an assignment to anyone with the sales rep role in any location within the entire company 2, essentially creating an assignment based on the role of sales rep. Now, in the next example we have here, an assignment made to the company 2 roles node at the parent level, and then an assignment made at the administration department level on the location side would result in an assignment being made essentially to everyone in the administration department. And that's how we can do an assignment to, say, a specific role or an assignment to a specific location, is you just include a higher level of assignment on the other side of the assignment trees. So now let's take a look at some design strategies and considerations. So when designing your business role and location structure, there are a few key questions that you should ask yourself as you go through the process. And the first is, will the system be used by non-technical, business-oriented employees, or only by centralized technical IT staff? Next is, what is the architecture of the target back-end resource systems that EmpowerID needs to automatically provision or to provide access to? And then what entitlements, such as accounts, mailboxes, home folders, etc., will need to be automatically provisioned? And then what are my other access assignments that I need to do automatic provisioning of? So let's take each of these questions and explore it a little bit more. So technical or non-technical users. So will the system be used by non-technical, business-oriented users or just by the IT staff? Now, if the system will be accessed by non-technical staff for purposes of object management, access assignments, onboarding, or other functions, then you'll definitely want to create a business role and location structure that makes sense to the business user within the organization. Now, this typically means that the location structure should be organized so it closely approximates your company architecture. Now, this could be business unit, could be geographic, or departmental, or any combination of these. And now, if the system will be used primarily by the technical IT staff, then the role and location architecture could be designed in a more technical structure that more closely resembles the back-end systems that it will be managing. So since EmpowerID is a delegated identity and access management system that provides the ability for you to delegate access to non-technical individuals to kind of relieve some of the workload and put the effort and the work associated with some of these access assignments onto the non-technical staff in the environment, the business owners, the data owners, the process owners in the system, then you really need to have an architecture that makes sense to those particular users. So now let's take a look at what the architecture of the target backend resource systems has to do with EmpowerID and our creation of the role and location structure. So you'll typically be mapping the business role and location structure to the architecture of the managed systems, such as HR and Active Directory systems. This is to create a link between EmpowerID and those external systems. Now for HR, it could be coming inbound into EmpowerID. You'll need to be able to map that HR structure into the business roles and locations in EmpowerID. And then on the reverse, when we're provisioning out to Active Directory, we need to have some sort of link back to the Active Directory. Now the simplest configuration occurs when there's some sort of logical link between the business location structure of EmpowerID and the external system location structure. Now this could be the Active Directory OUs or possibly the HR system location assignments. Now if you can somehow tie these location structures logically together, then you can leverage your mappings and inheritance to create a simple and efficient provisioning policy configuration. Also keep in mind here that it's easier to tie a more granular and detailed EmpowerID location structure to a flattened out AD structure. So if I have a single OU in the Active Directory, say for the finance division, then inside EmpowerID, I could have a more granular breakdown of the finance division into, say, accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, those types of departmental designations, and I can easily do a many-to-one mapping from the EmpowerID locations down into the Active Directory. Going back the other direction, it's not quite as simple. Now, if there's no logical connection between the business location structure and the external location structure, then the next consideration would be to see if the role structure could provide that linkage. Now, whereas you can't map between the business roles and the external containers, policies bound to the role structure can be configured to efficiently tie to the external system structure. So what I find is many customers will have an Active Directory OU structure that is based on the role. So they'll have OUs for administrators, OUs for secretaries, OUs for IT people, OUs for administrative assistants or warehousing employees, those types of breakdowns. And so sometimes it just makes sense to create our provisioning policies based on the role and then tie those into the backend architecture. So now let's take a look at our entitlement provisioning considerations. So what entitlements, such as accounts, mailboxes, home folders, etc., will need to be automatically provisioned, and how does that impact how we design our structure? So first of all, we need to carefully consider all of the assignments that are made when onboarding a person. Now, the most efficient configuration occurs when you can get the most bang for your buck if you can tie as many entitlements to a business role and location combination as possible. Now, the business role and location is the primary assignment of a person identity in the system, and as such is typically the most stable and least dynamic anchor point for identity entitlements. Okay, the roles and locations, your business structure, your business roles and locations don't generally change as dynamically as, say, an access role assignment would, or a management role assignment, something like that. So as many things as we can tie to that role and location architecture, it's going to make our lives easier. Now, assignments that don't lend themselves to a role and location assignment can still alternatively be handled through query-based set groups, management roles, dynamic hierarchy policies. So in the big picture, don't worry about trying to tie all of your assignments to the role and location. Just try to capture as many as possible, but understand we still have other ways of making those assignments. Now, some of the other assignment considerations that we have. So there are a lot of other considerations, other access assignments that are provisioned in EmpowerID, such as group memberships, SSO application assignments, web page access, application role assignments, and other technology-based assignments that a user will need when they're onboarded. Now, these types of assignments are often the hardest to quantify and group together. So look for patterns of assignments that fit together with each other in a consistent, repeatable way. Now, these groupings will often be departmental or organization based, or they could be job role based. So as we look for commonality, that'll allow us to aggregate these assignments and then consider these groupings of assignments when designing our roles and locations. So if we find a group of assignments that makes sense for maybe a particular job role, then maybe we'll create that job role and assign that particular grouping to that job role, because it gives us a consistent and more static anchor point to map that to. Now, when considering these additional assignments, remember the inheritance structure. So build your hierarchies in such a way that you can make global assignments at high levels of inheritance in the tree, and then these will flow down to the lower levels. It's simply a way to simplify your assignments and make it easier on you for creating those configurations. Now, some general tips and advice around designing of your role and location structure. Number one, don't try to boil the ocean. Start out by identifying critical assignment points and mappings to your backend systems, and get your base architecture established to support the direction you want to go in. And then configure the base structure and begin assigning the global assignments and entitlements. You can always get more granular and grow the configuration as you become more comfortable with the system and with your understanding of the patterns within your organization. But start broad. Start broad, prove the system, prove that you can do what you need to do, get comfortable with it. And then as you go to maybe your individual department heads and you say, okay, what roles do you have within your department that we could maybe do some provisioning automation on, then you can take individual departments and start growing them into the system and configuring them, looking for those patterns and getting them configured as you move forward. Now also, remember that not all job titles represent unique technology assignments. Look for areas that you can consolidate job roles and location structures. For instance, if a secretary, janitor, receptionist, and file clerk don't need to have special access outside of the department they're in, consider rolling all these job titles up into a single role called employee. Okay? And then create your unique roles just for those job functions that have distinct access requirements or entitlements. Now keep in mind this is separate from the location structure. All right, so if I have a secretary associated with a particular department and that secretary gets particular file system access or share access because they're in that department, then it's not the fact that she's a secretary that she gets that access. It's just the fact that she's a general employee in that particular department. Whereas a secretary in another department would get different access, but it's not because she's a secretary, it's because she's in that other department. So in that case, the secretary role itself doesn't really carry any unique privileges. It's simply associated with the department that they're in. So you could take that particular role and roll it up just into a general employee role. And that allows you to trim down your roles so you don't have quite so many that you have to manage. And then finally, leverage the inheritance structure. Can't stress this enough. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have to consolidate access and entitlements to upper level tree nodes that inherit to the child nodes beneath them. It'll make your life a lot simpler and you can do a lot less complex configuration in that manner. So to summarize, the role and location structure is the foundation for your system. So spend some time designing it well. It provides the business interface for your non-technical users. It provides a consistent anchor point for critical entitlements and access assignments that you need to make. As much as possible, it should tie back to the external systems that you'll be managing. And don't overcomplicate it. Design a structure that represents the business, but limit it to the unique technology assignment needs of the business. And finally, don't try to boil the ocean. A good design can grow with you as you find additional opportunities for automation. So thanks for watching. I hope you got some good out of this particular video on designing a role and location architecture. Now come back later for other videos that follow on from this, where we'll be talking about some very specific real-world examples of some role and location construction based on different company scenarios.